Hey you, the one working a 9-to-5 job. This is for you. No, not the pizza. In America, this pizza represents all the money you'll ever make in your adult working life. And this much of it is claimed by the government, forcibly put into a program called Social Security.
Social Security.
Social Security. Social Security.
Every politician, from crazy-haired socialist to cousin-loving capitalist, seems to support it.
He wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security.
This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security.
Talk about removing or changing the eligible age to receive it, and you end up with protests like these. But what if I told you the entire Social Security system is a Ponzi scheme on the brink of collapse, and all of the money that you've ever put into it is already gone?
Great, we can just put that into your retirement account and make it go to work for you, and it's gone.
Where does your pension go, and who's actually getting fed by it?
As prices continued to fall, the entire farm economy approached collapse.
America, in the middle of the Great Depression, and as one of the only modern industrialized countries without a universal pension program, faces growing outrage from a poverty-stricken population that begins to see retirement as nearly impossible. Kind of like today, but we'll get to that in a minute. In 1935, President Roosevelt sees this pain and comes up with a novel solution: the Social Security Act.
Because it has become increasingly difficult for individuals to build their own security single-handed, government must now step in and help them lay the foundation stones.
The deal was pretty simple back then. Everyone gives a piece of their working life pizza to the government every month. Maybe just a little piece of pepperoni. And by the time you're around old enough to be the youngest person in the 2024 presidential race, the government will have turned this little petite pepperoni piece into a whole freaking pie. When Social Security started, it was just 1% by the employee, 1% by the employer. And it was a smash hit. People loved it. It was so good that just mentioning the idea that maybe it should be an optional program likely cost Barry Goldwater the election to President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964. Since then, it's developed a cult-like quality. Mention cutting it or defunding it, and your political career is done. But here are the facts today. It's now 12.5% of your income, not 2%. It makes up 26% of all government spending in existence. And when it comes to repaying the contributors, the USA is $27 trillion short and growing. So let's do some super unsexy math here. The government automatically takes 12.5% of your working life income starting at the age of 18, puts it into an investment of their choice, and lets you start redeeming it anywhere between the age of 62 and 70. The average person in the US today makes $59,000, which means they pay around $610 a month into Social Security. When they retire, the average Social Security check they get from the government is $1,800 a month. But what if you got to keep that 12.5% instead? And starting at the age of 18, put that into the most basic and conservative investment portfolio continuously for the same period of time. Or for argument's sake, what if they just transparently offered to do that for you instead? Your contributions would grow and compound to a grand total of approximately $3.8 million by retirement. If you were then to roll that into the lowest possible interest-bearing account or government bond, you'd walk away with a $14,300 check a month. So the government gives you $1,800 a month, but a monkey with a Citibank account would be able to retire with $14,300 a month by just following basic investment principles. Do you smell that? It's not pizza, it's Ponzi.
It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
The Ponzi scheme works like this. Step 1, you get someone to give you money by promising them more money back in the near future. Step 2, you get 2 more people to do the same thing. Step 3, you use the money from the 2 new guys to pay the first guy. Step 4, you use the first guy as a case study to convince more people to give you more money so that you can pay back the other 2. Then rinse and repeat. It's genius. And so long as you keep finding new people to sign up, it kind of works. But as soon as you stop paying back old contributors, they start making noise. And it gets much harder to find new ones. Unless you have a gun. And boy, does the government love their guns. When you have a gun, getting new customers for your Ponzi scheme turns out to be quite easy. Who would have thought? And with that in mind, let's take a look how Social Security works step by step. Step 1, force every earner in your economy to give you 12.5% of their income every month, effectively crushing the ability for most low-skilled workers to ever build savings. Step 2, take that money and lend it to the U.S. Treasury, getting a little IOU with some interest in return while letting the government spend your contributions immediately as they wish on all those fun things they like to spend it on.
Light them all up.
We spent nearly $1 million studying the Japanese quail to see if they're more sexually promiscuous when they're on cocaine. I think we could have just polled the audience on that one.
Step 3, use the interest on those IOUs, which is negative in real terms, and the funds from the new contributors to pay back the old contributors, which also happen to be the richest generation on earth. Step 4, on top of the opportunity cost and the inflation obscured cost, charge another tax on the money you get back. What? You thought you'd stop paying income tax when you stopped working? Dream on, you proles! Step 5, frame the entire scheme as something that's in the best interest of the people and only works if everyone participates. That way, anyone who doesn't participate is not only an enemy of the state, but an enemy of their neighbors too. Sounds fair? Good. Now shut up and pay up. This isn't just a Ponzi scheme. It's much worse, because while Ponzi's feed off greed, Social Security preys on fear. Hence the name Social Security. You've been paying Social Security all your life. Do you feel secure? Oh, and it gets even better, because apparently now, even the government is starting to admit they can't pay back the pitiful returns they initially promised. So what happened? 2 things. We got old and we stopped having kids. When Social Security was created, the average life expectancy was 65 years, and so was the age of retirement. So if you were one of the lucky ones, you'd be able to collect for 5 or 10 years tops. Now, everyone lives much longer, maybe too long. And accordingly, the proportion of income to fund somebody's retirement needed to grow in tandem from 2% to 12.5%. But there's another problem on the horizon. People aren't having any more of these. And when your population pyramid inverts, you get a lot more old people needing Social Security checks from the few and ever decreasing amount of young people able to pay into them. Isn't that right? Now, this actually wouldn't be a problem at all if the government just took the money you put into Social Security, set it aside for you in an interest-growing account, and gave it back to you at 65. Or you could just do that. But they don't call it the nanny state for no reason. No. It's only because the government treats the program like a Ponzi, a line of credit that they can just perpetually borrow on from the backs of their younger citizens, that this entire thing destitutes millions of people from the ability to create actual wealth over their adulthood with that whopping 12.5% of income. So, what are you going to do about it? Well, you can start by calling a spade a spade. Social Security is not an entitlement. You're forced to put your money in, and the government has zero obligations to pay it back. That's not entitlement, that's extortion. Second, do as they do, not as they say. You know who spent their entire life advocating for Social Security? Nancy Pelosi. A year of her Social Security checks barely cover the cost of her ice cream fridge. Yeah, that's a thing. But you know what does pay the bills for her? Putting her disposable income into every single one of these option trades in the magnificent 7 tech companies.
Because this is a free market and we are a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that.
It's netted her hundreds of millions of dollars over dozens of years. I ain't even mad. That's just a good hustle. Hell, you can even set up your own stockbroker app to copy her trades. But none of that existed in the 1930s. Inflation hardly even existed back then. So simple programs like Social Security might have looked like a good idea. Today, everything's different. Should the average person have to be a Pelosi-level day trader to secure retirement? No, and you don't have to. You just need to put it into the S&P 500 and wait. But Social Security steals that opportunity from the earners in our economy who need those wealth-building opportunities the most. So stop letting politicians gaslight you on saving Social Security. Start teaching financial literacy in schools and let people be the masters of their own domain.
In their pamphlets, they describe it as a way in which 90% of American workers are providing for their own future. That's nonsense. What people today are doing is paying taxes today to pay the subsidies to the people who are receiving benefits today. What you have is a system of taxing the young at any point in time to subsidize the old.